Welcome to Lesson 1.3, Angles and Angle Measure. The objectives for this lesson are to name angles using the correct notation, to classify angles by measure, and to use a protractor to measure them, and to use angle addition postulate. The new vocabulary that we're going to be using in this period is the word interior, exterior, adjacent, acute, right, obtuse, and straight. An angle consists of two different rays that have the same initial point. The rays are the side of the angle. The initial point is the vertex of the angle. The angle has sides AB and AC. So how do we name an angle? We name an angle with three letters. So here we see we have ABC, ABC, and we have CBA, CBA. So then the question does it matter what order I put those letters into? And it does matter. It's important what order we put them in. The middle letter must always be the vertex. So if you notice here, there's a B there, and that's my vertex. And notice here, there's a middle letter that is also a B. We can also name an angle by one point, just the vertex. So I can say angle A, angle B, angle Z. We can name an angle by a number. So we can see angle 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's try an example. An example here is name the angle in this figure. There are actually three different angles in that figure. So let's see if we can name them. We have angle P, so let's start here. Then we have angle Q, because Q is the middle letter, is our vertex. And then we can say S right here. So we just went P, Q, S. All right, let's do it again. Whoops. We're going to start here and name that angle. So it's angle S, Q, R. And then the last angle we can describe is the big angle. So here we go. Start here and go here. So it is angle P, Q, R. Notice in each one of them, the Q is in the center. So then the question is, can you use Q to describe any of the angles? So could I possibly say angle Q? And the answer is no. Because if I said angle Q, you'd be wondering which one of these three I was just trying to describe, because they all have Q at the center. So I can't just use one letter for this. It would be too confusing. You wouldn't know which angle you were referring to. Okay, so new notation. We name an angle with its vertex. So on this side here, on the left-hand side, you can see that I have angle ABC. So it has the B in the center and the B in the center here. So that's naming it. But what if I want to describe the angle and I want to describe its measure? Then put an M in front. So its measure of angle ABC is equal to 30 degrees, and the measure of angle CBA is equal to 30 degrees. That M in front means I'm referring to the measure of the angle. If there's no M in front, I'm just talking about the angle. All right, so we talked about this prior when we talked about segments. We did segment addition. The way we show that two segments are congruent are with these tick marks right here. So if I have AB and CD that have the same one tick mark, then we can say that AB is congruent to CD. And the same thing down here, PQ is congruent to RS. All right, we're going to use the same idea over here for angles. So angles that have the same measure and are congruent are shown by using arc marks. So this arc mark right here, I have an arc that is just one arc right here and one arc right here. And since I have 1 and 1, that's telling me those two angles are the same measure. And we would say that the measure of, or we would say angle, TUV, is congruent to angle XYZ. Where these have two arc marks on these two, they're both congruent. And we would just state that one angle is congruent to the other by angle FGH is congruent to JKL. So same number of arc marks tells me that the angles are congruent to each other. Remember, this is a symbol for congruence. And it makes sense because it's saying the angle measures are the same and the size are the same, so the shape. Okay. When we use this congruence symbol down here, we're comparing two items. So I would say angle G is congruent to angle K. But when we use numbers to describe measurement, remember, we put the M in the front and we would say the measure of angle A is equal to 60 degrees. So those are two different notations that you should know. One is just comparing two angles, and one is talking about the measure of an angle. The moment you put an equal sign and put a number on the other side, you should have an M in front of your angle. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say you're going to stop your video. You're going to get out your handout, and the handout is L1.3 practice. I think it's a 6-page paper. I'll do 2 problems, and then you're going to finish the rest. So let's look at 2 problems on that handout. If you need to pause the video and go get your handout, and then come back. All right, on L1.3, practice angles and their measures, I want to write another name for angle 1. So the angle I'm looking at is this angle right there, angle 1. So I can write that as angle A, B, C, or I can write it as angle C, B, A. Now what I do when I'm looking for angles is I always just draw on top of them so you can see that's the angle that I'm looking for. And notice the B is always in the middle. So that's this angle right here, but it's telling me it has sides BA and BC. Okay, let's look at another one on the next page on the same handout. So you're going L1.3, and let's look one down here. If you need to pause the video to get in place, go ahead and pause it. You're going to write another name for the angle marked with an arc mark or a name. So notice here, in this case, it says the angle marked with the arc. All right, so which angle is it? So it is this angle that goes from here to here. So that means I'm going to start with H. I'm going to M right there in the middle and ending up at K. So it would be HMK or KMH. Okay, the same thing for the next one. So I'm going to do the next one. That one was done for you. I'm looking for angle 1, which is this angle right here. So the first thing I do is draw an arc across it. So identify the angle I'm looking for. And then I'm going to draw the angle. Okay, so the angle has an end point there, an end point there, a vertex here. So it is angle N, P, O, or angle O, P, N. It doesn't matter which order you do it in. All right, you're going to pause the video and finish those now. Okay, so far we've practiced naming angles. Now we're going to classify angles, and we classify angles according to their degree. So angles are classified as acute, right, obtuse, and straight. Angles have measures greater than 0 and less than 180. Now what I did was I put a note down here so you can see. In a geometry class, we usually refer to any angle as between 0 and 180 degrees. But later you'll see you can have angles that are greater than 180 degrees. So for example, if I looked on the back side of this angle, that angle would be 100, more than 180 degrees. It's a big angle, but we're not going to use those in the geometry class. All right, so you can see that acute angles are between 0 and 90. A right angle is 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is between 90 and 180, and a straight angle is 180. And I have an easy way of remembering those, and I'm not sure if this will help you or not, but I always like to give you the way I remember them. So I remember this. Acute has the word cute right in it. It's a cute little angle, so it's a small angle. The obtuse angle over here sounds an awful lot like this word. Oops, let's see if I can get my pen to write. Obese, which means fat. It's a big fat angle. Okay, so this is an obese angle. This is a nice little cute small angle. The right angle you need to remember, and you need to remember that this symbol right here always tells me that the angle is 90 degrees. And a straight angle. I know we don't like to think of an angle as being straight, but it is. There's such thing, and it's 180 degrees. Okay, so first let's practice estimating the measure of angles. You want to go to page 3 of lesson 1.3 practice and put the video on pause. And you want to do problems 1 through 6. And then check your answers with other students and restart the video. So this is what it looks like. I've given you the acute, the right, the obtuse, and the straight angle to look at. And then you come down here and you say, which angle is this? Is this a 35-degree angle or is it a 70-degree angle? Does it look closer to one of these or does it look closer to one of these? Okay, so you decide, circle, and then go check with the people at your table. Okay, now that you've had some practice just sort of estimating what angle measures look like, now you're actually going to measure them. So how do we determine the measure of an angle? We use a protractor to measure angles. So again, go to lesson 1.3, practice page 4, and watch how I measured 2 angles. You want to stop the video and measure the 2 other angles and check with your classmates to check that you did the right, that you got the right answers. Okay, so protractor. Protractor has a 0 point right here in the center, so that little crosshair right there is a 0. What you're always going to focus on is you're going to focus on the fact that you want to stop measuring your angle at 0. Now there's a 0 on this side and a 0 on that side, and it doesn't matter which one you use, but you have to line up on a 0. So I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to move it over here. And the center, the vertex right there, sits right there on the center of my protractor. Notice that this side right here is lined up on the 0. So now to measure this thing, I have to start at 0 and go around. So which numbers am I looking at? I'm looking at the inside numbers. So I'm looking at 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and it lands at 50. So it's a 50-degree angle. Okay, what if I want to do one that's a little bigger? So I'm looking at this angle down here, and it's odd because it's sort of lying funny. So I can either turn my protractor like this and line up on this side. So I'll move it down a little bit and measure this way, or I can turn it the other way. It doesn't matter which. I'm going to focus on 0 though. So the 0 now is on the outside. So I'm going to look at those numbers. And if I look at those numbers, I start at 0 and I go around to where my angle ends. My angle ends all the way over here. Then my angle ends at, it looks like, let's see if I can get this up nice and straight. Okay, it looks good. So it looks like it's about, if I extend this line, so I'm going to take this line and extend it out a little bit so you can see it clearly. Okay, so remember, I'm looking at the outside numbers. It's not quite 130. So it's about probably, I'm going to say, 128 degrees. So I'm just estimating that. I should be able to do the same thing going the other direction. So watch. I take this and I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to line up on the 0 line going that way. And again, if I start here, so let me erase this so you can see it clearly. Start here and go around. And this time I'm looking at the inside number because I always start at 0 when I'm doing this. So I'm starting here and going all the way around. And you can see it's just a little before 130, so I'm going to say 128. All right, so what you want to do is go measure the other 2. Check with your classmates. All right, so now you're going to continue on to the next page. And again, you're going to just measure with your protractor, always at the center. I'm rotating this thing around. And I'm going to start off by measuring this angle here. So I'm just going to go around and measure all of my angles. And I might turn it here and measure this angle. If I'm measuring on this side, I'm starting at 0 and going on. All right, so you're going to take some time and measure all the angles on this page. So a little more vocabulary. A point is in the interior of an angle if it's between the points that lie on each side of the angle. So this is the interior. Even if the point is way out here, it's still in the interior because these are going to extend out that way. Exterior is pretty obvious, anything on the outside of the 2 rays. And 2 angles are adjacent if they share a common vertex inside but have no common interior points. So you already showed adjacent angles on the last video that you watched. So you're going to go to page 6. of lesson 1.3, and we'll practice the first two together.